One of my biggest goals this year is to read more books, but January has come and gone and I've only read 2 books. So today I'm going to be doing a bit of planning for my reading, and if you're also aiming to read more books this year, this might help you too. The first step to reaching any goal is having a very clear definition of your goal. Simply reading more is very broad, so I've made a list of general goals I have with regards to reading. One of them is reading more books related to topics I want to learn about. So, for instance, history. There's also more books about like emotion and psychology, learning, time management, and communication. So for each of these categories, I actually have them listed in Apple Notes, and I've started listing out books that I think will help me. So like for emotions, thinking, and psychology, I've got like Thinking Fast and Slow, and Adults of Emotionally Immature Parents. And then there's things I want to improve on. For time management, I have Make Time. For learning, I have the book Make It Stick, which I'm currently actually reading already. And for communication, I have Thanks for Feedback. And then for being more ambitious in general, I think sometimes I'm a very complacent person and I want to work on that a bit. So I'm reading Personalities and Permanent and possibly also Mindset. Yeah. And then under that, I like to brain dump some arbitrary reading goals that I have for the year. So this is just like random stuff that I've kind of like thought like, oh, it would be cool if I read A to Z classics. So that's one of the things on my list. And I've ranked them based on my priority. So higher up on the list is read a book from every genre, especially nonfiction, because sometimes I find that I read way too many self-help books, but I kind of want to read more like history books and also read some biographies or memoirs. I also want to read a book from the alphabet, and I want to make a tracker of this in my journal, which I'll be doing later on in this video. I also want to read a Virginia Woolf book. I want to reread Anne of Green Gables. I want to reread Sister Prose and Cruel Prince and the BFG. So these are books I've read back in like middle school, elementary school, and I kind of want to just reread the books that I enjoyed when I was a kid to get back into reading and see how your perspective of the book has changed over time. Some of these goals are not necessarily goals I might get done in this year, but I'm putting them down here and I'm planning on making some like reading spreads in my journal or in my planner to track these. And it's very satisfying to just like tick off boxes. So I'm planning on doing that later on. And then finally, I need to go through my Goodreads TBR. So my Goodreads TBR is like, it's a huge mess. I will actually scroll through it really quickly. So here's my Goodreads TBR. This is a huge list. I'll probably look through my Goodreads list throughout the year at the beginning of every month when I'm picking out books to read for that month. But at the same time, I just like to be more spontaneous with books, and I'm a big mood reader, so it just really depends on how I'm feeling in that moment. Finally, I want to also read some of the books that I've been recommended by from other people. So those are the 2 things. And one day is I want to try reading a book from every genre of fiction and nonfiction this year. I find that I tend to, number 1, read too much self-help from nonfiction, and number 2, read too much fantasy from fiction. I kind of want to like branch out a bit and try some other different genres, maybe get into thrillers or mystery, just like let's say, I'm not sure yet. But I will browse around on Goodreads and check out my TBR and see what falls into these genres, and then I'll go from there. Finally, after I've built a list of books I want to read this year, I want to categorize them into 3 lists, because my plan for reading is to generally aim to read 5 books a month and cycle through 3 different categories. I want to read 2 nonfiction books, 2 fiction books. So that's going to be like a literary fiction book, plus maybe like fantasy or whatever genre I'm feeling in the moment. It's something that's kind of easier on my mind, that doesn't require too much like concentration. So I'm thinking like maybe a rom-com, because those are really fun to read. And then finally, my 5th book that I want to read every month is a classics, because I want to get into reading more classics this year, but I need to be careful about picking classics that I'm actually interested in reading, and not just reading like The Great Gatsby because everyone says it's good. I personally am not that inclined to reading The Great Gatsby, at least not at this moment, so that's not going to be on my list. I've largely already made 3 lists. I've got my fiction books, and my nonfiction books, and then my classics. So I've built this list of books based off of these goals I have. So for example, I've got like read Anne of Green Gables, so I put that under classics, right? Where did I put it? Here. And then I've also have like read a Virginia Woolf book. So I also moved that over here. I have reread Six of Crows, so I have that under fiction. And I have reread Cruel Prince also here. So this is generally it. There's some goals I have, like read all of Jane Austen, read all of Malcolm Gladwell, Emily Henry, Sally Rooney. So for each of those goals I have, I don't necessarily plan on hitting them this year, but they're kind of guiding goals for me to use in order to pick books I want to read this year. So like, I've picked a Sally Rooney book, I've picked a Bronte sister book, I've picked a Emily Henry book, and I've categorized them into these 3 categories. So the plan is that I will pick a book for each list at the beginning of every month. So those are going to be the 3 books that I have to read that month. On top of that, I'll also get to choose 2 random books, likely just whatever's been on my mind or whatever a booktuber is recommending at that moment. So a total, I will aim for 5, maybe 6 books. 5 books will be good enough for me. And then under here, I have just some other suggestions. So you can see down here that I've had like, oh, I want to reread Harry Potter or like reread Percy Jackson. So these are some other suggestions are not that high of a priority, but just some ideas for me when I'm picking out books. So those are just some other suggestions. These are the books I'm going to read, and feel free to like take a screenshot of this if you want some ideas as books to read. I also have in parentheses a little reason as to why I want to read the book. So for some of them, because it's just a goal, I'm not going to put anything in parentheses. But like for Taylor Jenkins Reads, there's like multiple books that I've been wanting to read, but sometimes I'm not feeling it. So I have in parentheses a reason why. Like for One Good Loves, I saw in one Goodreads review that it has like a really great ending. So I put like great ending ? And finally for classics, now this is a big thing. I need to have a reason, like a why behind a classics book, or else like I want to read more classics in general, but like I also need to be interested in reading the book. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest motivators that will help me read more books, having a strong why behind why I want to read the book. So when I'm looking for a reason as to why I want to read a book, I'm actually going to go through Goodreads and read the 5-star reviews, and hopefully that will be a good motivator for me. I usually find that I really want to read a book after reading some really good 5-star reviews that of course do not have spoilers, and I'll spoil myself for books. I'm mostly done with adding reasons for books that I need reasons for, and next step is adding these. So I finished transferring my TBR to my planner, and this is basically what it looks like. On this page, I've got like 2024 TBR, and I've got a list of all my books. So this is fiction, these are the classics, and then these are nonfiction. On this side, I've got A to Z books, so I have just the alphabet listed here, A, B, C, all the way to Z. And as I read a book that starts with this, I will have to add it in. I'm actually going to add one for numbers, because I read the 12-week year. That fills it in for numbers. And the next page here is for my goals of reading a book from every genre. So on this side, we've got fiction, and then these are the different genres I want to read in fiction. On this side, I have nonfiction, and that's it. Oh, something else I also do for reading is tracking, and this is like my February monthly spread, but I have a habit tracker for reading. So what I do is I'll put like a check mark every time I do the habit. So for reading, my goal is just 30 minutes of reading. So yesterday I did that, so I put a check under Friday, and here it's a bit small, but there's Sunday through Saturday. And then there's like 4 different habits that I'm tracking, and this is how I'm doing it. So yeah, that's that. So this is basically how I plan in my planner. I don't do anything fancy. Everything is just like black and white. But it works for me, and I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know down in the comments below what your reading goals are, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye!